morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special segment on the 21st day of March 2023. Well, in Brisbane it's 25 degrees and partly sunny, means partly cloudy, but it is looking very good. 25 degrees. I know in the last few days and especially the weekend had been a heat wave, and there was so much that was happening out there. Well, right now today, sorry for the light beginning, but we have a couple of news updates, Daily India Report, and the bonus clip from the World Multicultural Art Festival, WAMCI's very famous Jai Ho dance. You've got to watch that. Well, right now, let's get on to the first news for today.
Arthur Sinodinos has now officially finished up as Australia's ambassador in Washington. He spent quite a big part of that posting really focused on the AUKUS agreement, under which Australia will acquire nuclear-powered submarines. We finally got the details of that deal last week. It will see Australia purchasing several Virginia-class submarines from the United States as an interim measure before a new sub based on a British design with American technology is built. Now, this plan is going to cost up to $368 billion over 3 decades. There has been some very vocal criticism in the past week or so, including from former Prime Ministers Paul Keating and Malcolm Turnbull, someone that Mr Sinodinos worked very closely with. But he insists, as he finishes up in this job, that this was the right approach to take.
Failure is not an option. We've made our decision. Yes, we can debate pros and cons, but in the end, a decision had to be made by the Australian government, and they made that decision. They crossed the Rubicon. Our job now, as a nation, is to get on with it.
Now, former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd takes over as US Ambassador this week. Mr Sinodinos expects that one of his biggest challenges will be ongoing work related to AUKUS. There are still a number of issues that need to be sorted out, including when it comes to technology transfer, something that will require congressional approval. But he insists that he does think that there is bipartisan support here, and that would extend to any future US presidents, even if that does turn out to be Donald Trump, who is, of course, seeking the Republican nomination again.
There you go. Well, it goes all around in circles, doesn't it? Well, but wishing Kevin Rudd, our Queenslander, all the very best there as well. Right now, Darling River, what do we know about all the floods? What's happening there?
Braden Lampard and his colleague from recreational fishing group Ozfish came to Menindee with the hope of rescuing survivors of this mass die-off.
We're just trying to see if there's any fish that have survived in this water, but I don't have high hopes of seeing any fish this afternoon.
With millions of fish carcasses continuing to rot in the Darling River, locals have been told that town water quality and the clean-up are priorities. Speaking from Dubbo, around 700 kilometres away, a senior police officer coordinating the effort couldn't say when fish would start to be removed.
I haven't got a time frame at the moment, but I anticipate it will be this week, and obviously for the people of Menindee, I want that to be sooner rather than later.
Authorities are negotiating with the same people involved in the 2019 clean-up.
There is a need for contractors to come in. Now, they're specialised, they're trained, and they're not based in Menindee.
It's like a slow funeral procession. That's what it feels like. You know, it just hangs over the town. Menindee doesn't want to be known for this.
Local residents have been invited to a community meeting with officials from agencies involved in the response in Menindee tomorrow. The feeling from many here is that the lessons from previous fish kills haven't been learnt. Bill Ormond, ABC News, Menindee.
Well, they really need to get down to the bottom of it. What would have caused that? That's a mass destruction. That is just so terrible to just even watch that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, the other segment is Nationals call for stricter regulations on nicotine vape passages, and that is growing. I have seen that all around the city, in the corners and everywhere, and empty packets and buckets being thrown, especially on the area that we go for walks. And
take us through what you think might work, because there's clearly a problem. Yeah, we've got to acknowledge that the reforms that the coalition put in the last government, a bit over 12 months ago, haven't worked. We've got to put a hand up and say, with genuine intent, with what Greg Hunt put forward, hasn't shifted the dial and in fact has exposed children to this increasing black market of vapes. So what we're saying is we've got to move with the market, we've got to understand the risk to our children and look to reshift where the regulation is and use some common sense. And I think you can look at how we've regulated for cigarettes in the past, where the point of sale, where reputable retailers or chemists with vapes in particular could be the ones that dispense these to people over 18. And we look at the flavours that are offered, the packaging, and even making sure that we don't get carried away with the excise, and that the excise we do get, we can put into regional health and making sure that we invest that back into regional health programs. But we've got to acknowledge that the reforms that were with genuine intent to try and fix this haven't worked, and we have to get ahead of this because children are the ones that are the victims of this, and there's been an explosion of this. And unless we use some common sense and make it easy for the regulators to police and mirror and simulate what's happening with cigarettes, then we won't get the impact we want on cracking down on these black markets, but also protecting children.
Yeah, you've also said in the release that it's to assist those people who want to wean themselves off cigarettes, but the WHO has said that the evidence on that is just not solid at all. So why do you even want to start looking at treating vapes legally, putting them in convenience stores just like cigarettes? Is that really going to solve the problem?
Well, let's just put this in perspective. The ANU did a study that shows that young people under 18 who get on vapes are 3 times more likely to get onto cigarettes. So if you regulate for under 18s and take that opportunity away from them and keep the supply chain tight in terms of where it can be sold, then you actually have a long-term solution. There is no silver bullet to this, and I think that's what we've been trying to achieve for too long, is let's look for a long-term solution that takes this away from young children and not get them onto these flavours and not knowing what are in these cheap Chinese imports, in particular what are in fact are the ingredients.
Well, why not just crack down on the rules that actually are there? Why not say, let's enforce the bans, let's actually get serious about it? Wouldn't that work?
Well, we are saying that, but we're saying let's streamline the regulatory model to make sure that it mirrors with cigarettes, because then that makes policing easier. That's a common sense approach to protect children, to make sure that we have a long-term solution of not just getting people off vapes in the long term, but getting people off cigarettes. And that's the common sense solution the Nationals want, to make sure that we protect children, because at the moment we've got an epidemic out there where young children are getting on these things. And I've got a son, 15-year-old son, a couple of years ago who tried these and was able to get access to them any store you can walk into. And while I get where the health professionals come from, I don't like vapes and I don't like cigarettes. But I get their ideology, but I live in the practical reality of the real world. These things are on every street corner, and what we need to do is to be able to tighten them up, to streamline the regulation with the ones we've got, particularly when they're aligned to cigarettes, and make sure that we make the policing easier for our state and federal agencies to crack down on. That's the common sense solution the Nationals want to work constructively through with the government and anyone else, but make sure also that excise, we're sensible about not going over the top with that, and if we do get excise, let's put that back into regional health where we are short of a few dollars.
David, a little...
And I think he did have a very good point there, and we have seen quite a lot of that happening out there in the community. This is the new thing. And of course, when smoking's been banned, but this vaping has just taken on. Ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report, which brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida arrived in Delhi on 20th March to explore ways to boost bilateral ties in a range of areas including defense and security, trade and investment, and high technologies. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's day-long visit to India holds significance as it comes during India's G20 presidency and Japan's G7 presidency. The visit is seen to endorse not only India's but Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's political image. Both countries are expected to discuss bilateral ties and also talk about expanding cooperation of the two groupings, G20 and G7, to handle critical global issues including food and health security, energy transitions and economic security. Kishida will hope to more than make up for the absence of his foreign minister, Yoshimasa Hayashi, from the G20 foreign ministers meeting in India earlier in March 2023. While the Ukraine issue will again figure prominently in Kishida's agenda for the meeting with Modi, the focus will also be on enhancing security and defense cooperation and working towards a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Kishida is expected to talk about ways to further expand Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific policy. The successful conduct of the first fighter jet exercise, Veer Guardian, in January 2023 in Japan between the two countries is considered a milestone. Defense and security cooperation has emerged as one of the most important pillars of special strategic and global partnership and an important factor in ensuring peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. India will further boost defense ties with long-term friend and neighbor in the Indian Ocean, Maldives. The two countries held the 4th Defense Cooperation Dialogue in Malé. India and the Maldives on March 19 decided to further boost bilateral defense ties, especially in the maritime domain, military engagements and the complexity of the joint exercises during the Defense Cooperation Dialogue at Male. The 4th Defense Cooperation Dialogue, which was chaired by Indian Defense Secretary Giridhar Aramane and his Maldivian counterpart, Chief of Defense Force Major General Abdullah Shamal, reviewed the entire gamut of ongoing bilateral defense cooperation activities. With an eye firmly on China making inroads into countries in the Indian Ocean region, India has been helping Mal with the capacity building of the Maldives, National Defense Forces, military aid and training, EEZ surveillance and hydrographic surveys. Reportedly, official sources said increased engagements between the armed forces of India and the Maldives are a positive sign. The DCD is the highest institutionalized interactive mechanism between the two countries and charters the future course of relations between their armed forces. India has stepped up its diplomatic and military engagement with Maldives, which included aid during the COVID, especially since President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih came to power in 2018. Two Indian tourist destinations have been selected by the Time magazine to feature in its annual list of world's greatest places for the year 2023. Renowned American news weekly, the Time magazine has released its annual list of the world's greatest places for the year 2023. The list, which has 50 spots, includes two Indian places, Ladakh and Mayurbhanj, that have been selected for their rare tigers, ancient temples and adventures and eats. The magazine said, quote, "The travel industry is back in full swing in 2023, but not without notable shifts in how and where we wander. Steeper coast and increased interest in sustainability and authenticity are reshaping the landscape." End quote. Time magazine has created profile pages for Ladakh and Mayurbhanj where it has highlighted the reasons why these places are part of its prestigious list. The magazine said the astonishing alpine landscapes and Tibetan Buddhist culture, Ladakh, in the furthest flung part of North India, has enough wonders to warrant multiple visits. In 2023, India designated its first dark sky reserve in Hanle village, about 168 miles southeast of Leh Ladakh's capital. The village has roughly 270 clear nights a year, making it ideal for astronomical splendor. Time magazine also recommended staying at sustainable properties when in Ladakh: the Khegar Hotel in the Nubra Valley, Shell Ladakh and Dolkhar in Leh. Mayurbhanj, located in the state of Odisha, is the only place on earth to spot the exceedingly rare black tiger. Apart from the famous Similipal National Park, there's a lot more that you can do in this district. The magazine said that in April 2023, Mayurbhanj Chau, a captivating dance festival on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list, will take place on a much larger scale following a pandemic hiatus. Last year, Kerala and Ahmedabad were the Indian destinations in Time's World's Greatest Places of 2022. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government will protest hard against the inaction of the government of the United Kingdom to not control and stop protests and miscreants to bring down the Indian national flag at the Indian High Commission in London. India wants to see the miscreants arrested and charged. The Indian government had informed the Whitehall and MI5 earlier in the month of March about the planned protest by purported Sikh extremists. New Delhi is extremely upset at the indifference and inaction of the British government in allowing protesters to pull down the Indian national flag. India is clear there will be repercussions. The putting down of the national flag atop the Indian High Commission by Khalistan separatists on 19th March and the indifference of the British system towards the security of the diplomatic premises has been viewed as action-forcing event, said reports quoting top-level Modi government officials. India summoned the Deputy High Commissioner of the UK in India and said in no uncertain terms that at the very minimum the UK government must against the perpetrators. Also, with continuous incidents at and around the Indian High Commission in London, there are serious discussions about how to control and respond to such incidents. The man behind the Sunday protest has been identified as a UK-based asylum seeker Avtar Singh Khanda, whose father, Kulwant Singh Kokrana, was a declared terrorist of the Khalistan Liberation Force. Reports said it was Khanda who got the radical Sikh students in the UK to organize the Sunday protest. Asia's largest tulip garden has been opened for tourists from March 19th. Located in the picturesque city of Srinagar in Kashmir, the garden houses over 1.6 million tulips of 68 different varieties. Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar has been thrown open to the public from March 19th. Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha was the chief guest at the grand opening of Tulip Garden. A huge rush of officials and UAE businessmen were present in the garden besides tourists. Over 1.6 million tulips of 68 different varieties will bloom in Asia's largest tulip garden as against 1.5 million tulips in 2022. It took the floriculture department 6 months to make this garden ready for opening for the general public. Official and tourism players hope for a massive footfall at the Tulip Garden this year. Authorities have this year built additional attractions for tourists that includes a water channel and moving fountains inside the garden, which will add to the beauty of the garden. Tulip Garden in Srinagar has become one of the major tourist attractions of the valley since its inception. Situated at an altitude of 5,600 feet, the garden comes as a major boost for the state tourism department. Australia defeated Team India in the second one-day international played in Visakhapatnam. Host India was handed their biggest defeat in the 50-over format in terms of balls to spare. Australian cricket team avenged their defeat at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai as they hammered the Indian side by 10 wickets, with 39 overs to spare in Visakhapatnam to level their 3-match ODI series at 1-1. Australia lost badly in the opening match, being bowled all out for 188 runs, but they cruised to victory at YS Raja Reddy Cricket Stadium on March 19th. Asked to bat first, India were rocked by Stark in the first over itself as he sent Shubham Gill packing for a duck off the third ball to set the tone for what was to come. Returning skipper Rohit Sharma, who scored 13, started well with a couple of boundaries, but it did not last long and India never found any real rhythm. India were bowled out for just 117 runs off 26 balls after being sent out to bat first with Mitchell Starc, claiming a 5-wicket haul in a truly dominant display from the tourists. Only 4 players reached double figures with Virat Kohli 31, Ravindra Jadeja 16 and Akshar Patel 29 not out, struggling to cause Australia any real problems. India's target of 118 for victory was never going to trouble Australia, and the explosive pair of Head and Marsh made light work of the Indian bowlers. Michelle Marsh 66 not out and Travis Head 51 not out remained unbeaten to confirm victory inside 4 hours. The men in blue endured their biggest defeat in terms of balls to spare as Australia finished the run chase with 234 balls to spare. India had lost only one pair of their previous 9 ODIs at this venue before the match on March 19th. The sides will reconvene in Chennai on March 22nd for the deciding match. Returning to the action genre after a series of romantic outings, Telugu cine star Naga Chaitanya looks menacing in the teaser of his upcoming film Custody. Telugu action star Naga Chaitanya will soon be seen in an all-out action avatar in Venkat Prabhu's bilingual film Custody. The producers have released the teaser of the film, which shows the actor in the role of an angry young cop who is honest and dedicated towards his job. The teaser starts with Chaitanya's voiceover saying that a wounded heart can push a man far and even make him start a war. As the action scenes show Chaitanya fighting the bad guy, it ends with him saying, "Truth is conviction, truth is legend. Yes, that truth is in my custody." The teaser was also released on the official Twitter handle of the production house with the caption, "Truth is conviction, truth is legion." Chaitanya is doing a pure action film after a long time. He was recently seen in films such as Love Story, Bangaraju, Venki Mama, Majli and Lal Singh Chaddha, which stayed away from the genre. The film will be released in Telugu and Tamil languages and also stars Kriti Shetty as Chaitanya's love interest in the film. The film has a talented ensemble of actors such as Arvind Swamy, Priyamani, Sharad Kumar, Sampath Raj, Prem Gyaran, Venila Kishore and Premi Vishwanath. The movie is produced by Srinivasa Silver Screen and presented by Pawan Kumar. The film is set to release in theatres on May 12th. That's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
And thank you very much, Simran, for that report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, as promised, we go to that bonus track of the Jai Ho scene from WAMCI. Well, let's take it away, girls. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, your very own performance right here in Brisbane. So this young talent, they did wonderfully well. I thought that they were very, very good. That was the presentation at the Multicultural Festival celebrating Harmony Day put together by WAMCI 2023. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in today's segment. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us.